Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Missile Dancer, a fun rock-on shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. Originally from developer Terrarin Games, and now on the Nintendo Switch courtesy of Digista, Missile Dancer released for mobile in 2018. Now in 2020, we're looking at the Nintendo Switch version. Keep in mind, at this time, it's only available on the Japanese eShop, though I do fully expect to see a worldwide release for this title as it's already localized into several different languages. So as far as the gameplay is concerned, this one is based around a lock-on missile mechanic. You have a radar that will allow you to lock on to enemies and you can destroy them that way. Is it a title that I can recommend? Kind of. I feel that the price point they're asking for the Nintendo Switch version is just a little too high. So let's have a look at it and you can make the decision of whether or not it's one that fits your tastes. Here, from the main menu, we can select to play the game in 1 or 2 players. That's one of the big differences between the mobile version and the Switch version, as the Switch version does allow for 2 players. And that being the case, let's play it that way. Once you select your player count, you're taken to the select game. Here, we can select to play in arcade mode with 3 difficulties, normal, hard, and expert, or we can play in Caravan Mode. Caravan Mode is a solely high score based mode where you play the game for 3 minutes and set the highest score you can in those 3 minutes. Arcade Mode is the standard way to play the game, and you're taken to this screen. There are 8 areas we'll work our way through, and starting off in Area 1, the Navy Sky, we've got our 2 fighters. The fighters themselves have this radar that radiates out from the fighter, and if any enemies pass into that radar, you'll lock onto it. Once you have sufficient locks to either destroy the enemy, or once you've released your lock, you'll fire missiles at those targets, hopefully destroying the targets. And that's the basis for our mechanics. We do have 6 missiles to start, so that's something to keep in mind. You'll only be able to lock on to 6 separate targets or 6 lock-ons initially, and our radar is, well, what you see it here. Throughout the course of the gameplay, we'll be able to increase both our stock of missiles and our radar range. The R gives us increased radar range. The missiles that come down, highlighted by M, will give us more missiles. It's also possible to pick up a power-up later in the game, that's an F, which will give you full power in both missiles and range. So if you look in the margins of the screen, you'll see that you have your indication both of shooting range and missiles for both players. If you'll notice on the missiles are referred to as rock-on missiles, hence the rock-on from the beginning. So I really love that sort of minor translation goof. It just is a fun thing to kind of play around with. So that's the basis for the gameplay. There are some neat scoring mechanics, however. As we destroy the enemies, there's a combo meter that builds on the top left of the fighting screen there. If it builds above a 5 chain, then you'll score a bonus of points equal to whatever the chain is when the chain expires, 9,000. So 5,000 points for 5 chain, 10,000 points for 10, and so on and so forth. You can actually get some pretty awesome chains going, especially there's one section later in the game where you can actually score chains over 100, so really great points. So that was the first boss that we just saw there. The boss fights are actually a lot of fun, but they can be somewhat challenging. As your lock-on is a very short range, it requires you to fight the boss relatively point blank. So depending on your shoot 'em up playstyle, that might not be what you like to do, but at least for me, I enjoyed it quite a bit. So, as this was originally a mobile title, I thought there'd be some advantage of comparing some of the differences and similarities between this and its original. So I'm going to throw up some footage real quick of the original game. So right off the bat, you can see that there's not quite as much detail and color to the original graphics. Those were overhauled for the Switch release, which was nice to see. The mechanics are also simpler. In the Switch version, it's possible to release your lock-on before you have a full load of missiles ready to go, whereas in the mobile you don't have that kind of flexibility. So I do really enjoy the greater amount of detail and color palette that is present in the Switch version, and the addition of the second player is very welcome as well. The one thing that I would have liked to have seen was online leaderboards. So before we finish with the video, I'd actually like to show off the Caravan Mode real quick. So I'm going to drop back to the title screen, and we'll fire that up. The Caravan Mode actually acts as kind of a great boss rush. As we play through the stage, we'll actually be getting several of the bosses in different orders than you would encounter them in the 8 stages you would play through the game normally, just in somewhat weakened form, so you can actually defeat them a lot faster. It adds for a pretty fun experience fighting all the various bosses at times that you would otherwise not have. So in Caravan Mode, like I mentioned, the goal is just to score as high of a score as you can in 3-minute time. And so let's talk about the plus flavors and the minus flavors for this game. So as I was mentioning, I don't, well rather, I feel that this game could really benefit from having online leaderboard. So it's got some great scoring mechanics, but it's simple enough that you'll get through the game relatively easily. After a few playthroughs, or maybe even your first playthrough, one continued clearing it isn't out of the question. So at that point, what's left? Aiming for higher and better scores. And one of the ways to encourage that is to compete against others online. And if there's no online leaderboards, well, how are you supposed to do that? So it's a big minus flavor in my mind. The other one is the price point. So base asking price on the Japanese eShop is just shy of 2,000 yen, basically the equivalent of 20 US dollars. The original mobile version, though simpler than this one, was only $2. So, like, given the upgrades, I can understand a little bit of an increase in price point, but not quite to that level. So it's one that I can recommend for this price, rather at a discounted price, which admittedly it currently is through July 7th, 2020 on the Japanese eShop, so you can look out for it on that. The plus flavors, though, I do really enjoy this fun lock-on mechanic. It's one that's been present in several other games, and it's one that I can really get around, shoot 'em up that's revolves around this kind of mechanic. It's actually very relaxing. So just sitting here wiping out enemies as fast as you can, and just taking out enemies as they fly into your web is really satisfying. And I do also enjoy the combo mechanics, trying to set up the highest combos you can by destroying enemies in a strategic fashion. So that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. Time up! I want to thank you so much for joining me this week, and as always, I look forward to seeing you again next week.